A lot to cover today. Phil Spencer talking about brand new Xbox Series console upgrades, studios, and much more. Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? Dealer back again with yet another video talking about the latest when it comes to Xbox. Microsoft, they are doing a ton. They've got a ton of great positive news for their fans, and I figured we would talk about some of it. So, hey, if you end up liking this video, maybe tell your brother we're switching it up for a week, and also hit the like button. It really helps more than you know. Subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, because while I've been gone for a week, there's been things happen and breaking developments as well. Contraband developers talking about working with Microsoft, how amazing it is and what they're after. Phil Spencer is talking about the future of the console and more. And I really look forward to covering that stuff here in a second, but I got to cover this first. I've been getting so many messages about this Doom Eternal developer speaking on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and they don't really have great news for the PS5. Hey, by the way, if you're not interested in this topic, skip to the 4-minute mark. You can hear about the Phil Spencer thing and our studios thing. That's about where I stop talking about this because there's a lot to unpack here. But Doom Eternal. Well, you guys know I am a massive fan of this game. One of the best looking games of all time. Everything about it is really, really good. And that includes the fact that it does support VRS on Xbox Series X. And if I do recall correctly, there were a lot of people saying that PS5 supported VRS that was accelerated by the silicon of the box, right? Like the kind Xbox has. The one Sony have yet to confirm. Now again, we'll go over the software VRS stuff that they do actually use. But during an interview with Doom Eternal technical developer, where he's discussing these patches for PS5 and Xbox Series X, he does confirm that VRS is not available on any other platform. He wishes he could have used it.
And it's the tier 2 variable rate shading. And we looked at that. Alex noticed that in the video, and you can sort of see minor artifacts, but ultimately, you know, it's an effective thing. Using VRS, how much does it shave off the render budget in terms of getting things out? And is that perhaps tied into like how you're able to get, say, the higher resolution on Series X when running the 120 hertz mode?
Yeah, it definitely helps with the performance. One of the benefits it was, and I wish it was available on all platforms, is you would have definitely used it if you had it everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
Forgive me, but I gotta jump in here real quick. For one, John seems pretty irritable right now. Secondly, you're gonna tell me that after you got a developer on your show that gives you basically all the cheat codes, you're not gonna ask him a single thing? You're gonna tell me you've got this developer who made this same exact patch for PS5. He then says no other platforms have VRS, and you don't ask any specific question about PlayStation 5 in that regard. I mean, think about it. A technical lead from Bethesda, from id Tech, who has built this patch from the ground up for both systems, says it wasn't available on any other platforms. Digital Foundry, of all places, shouldn't you follow right up with, does PS5 not have it? I mean, isn't it? It's your literal job. Anyway, when John didn't bother to ask him what he meant, yeah, he noticed that. Look, I've already went on podcasts and videos about how every company might have its own version of VRS at some point. I mean, there's even a version of VRS that the Metro developers used on PS4 and Xbox One. It's not the same thing, and PlayStation 5 does not have it. PlayStation guys, go take a walk. You'll need it after that. And while the rest of us learn about how much they can save on performance with VRS on Series X.
What makes the most sense? And if I have VRS, I want to use VRS because what it does is it reduces the amount of resolution scaling we have to do on the overall whole frame. So resolution scaling didn't have to do so much work. There wasn't so much fluctuation, and overall that makes for a better image, and that makes more sense for the whole scene, for all aspects of rendering and to the consumer, you know?
Do you have an estimate on like how much that actually shaves off of frame times? Because like, you know, if you're trying to hit 120 frames per second, you only have 8.3 milliseconds per frame, right? So like, what kind of savings are we looking at roughly, if you can remember? Oh,
I mean, it was on the 10-15% in some cases.
10-15% on this particular title, on this particular engine, with this squad working on this. Now, it's worth saying, because people don't ever really say these things, this is generation, 1-2 VRS, this is generation 1-2 GDK. This crap's only gonna get a lot better. As good as things look, as good as Doom Eternal looks now, man, in 5 years, games are going to look radically different, utilizing full 16 threads in 2, and all of that ray tracing in RDNA 2 silicon, as well as velocity. This is just the beginning. and it's already amazing. Speaking of amazing, Phil Spencer moving on to buy even more studios, and, well, apparently he's very open to upgrading the Xbox Series consoles with new functionality. Now, if you're someone that's like, hey, I just bought a Series X, I feel robbed now, which is weird logic because you bought it at launch and they're gonna make it cheaper and easy to build, and, you know, don't panic, right? We'll get to that in a second. First, we're talking about Phil Spencer and his new interview talking about the future of Xbox. Tons of acquisitions, games. It's funny, he just spells it out. Yeah, in the next several years, we're going to do this. And by the way, we're going to take plenty of creative risks and allow these studios, like another studio I'm going to cover later in this video, to be even more creative, to do things differently. Now, there's some pretty neat stuff in this article. Phil does talk about studios, and I'll get to that first because I find that pretty intriguing, just how bold he is with this. He don't even care anymore. He's like, how many we got? I don't even know. Now, the journalist here is asking about Microsoft purchasing studios that are in India, Africa, or South America. Well, Phil does say, well, I'd actually be quite surprised if that doesn't happen. Just knowing about the talent over there, the game engines like Unity, yes, of course, it would pay to be accessible. Now, he does finish it off by saying, I would be surprised if in the next 3 to 5 years, you didn't actually see more of these studios in areas where they are not currently, meaning creating new hubs for game development, new relationships. That's Phil outright saying, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to own studios in those territories, and that means they're looking at them right now, obviously, right? That's just something to think about. Phil is asked, is there still room for the more traditional style form of narrative-driven game on Xbox Series X, which is a super stupid, weird question because most of the first-party games have campaigns, but anyway, I digress. Now, Phil comes back and says, I think we're probably building more of those now than we've ever done in the history of Xbox. Look, that question was either bait from the journalist or he really didn't know they just bought ZeniMax. Yeah, those single-player games, they definitely don't got none. Anyway, Phil had a reply, basically saying, in layman's terms, hey, Game Pass allows us to take more risks. It's allowing developers to take more risks because there is a chunk of money there now that even if we do take a hit on X, Y, or Z, we can kind of circulate that cash around where it's needed, and, you know, it just keeps coming in. Now, as long as they keep investing, it will keep coming in because Game Pass is a phenomenal service. Now, this article also references Phil open to the idea of playing games in some kind of preview version of their Game Pass service, something like that, where you can play games while they're in progress of being made. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like to play stuff when it's done, when it's polished, and when it's finished, so I wouldn't opt into something like that. However, I don't know how I feel about this particular thing. I like the feeling of just throwing in an amazing experience that's polished, that is just all there. And I don't feel like games have been all there over the last generation for the most part. And I would just like to have that feeling again. And the previous stuff and all that, it's great if you want to opt in. Games like Grounded, for instance. But hey, that's the problem with something like this. Everything depends on everything, right? Of course, just like if you're replacing your old Xbox Series controller, well, that only depends on if there's a newer, cooler controller out. And according to Phil Spencer, he is quite open to installing haptic feedback and other features into the series controllers. Now, personally, I don't like the PS5 triggers. I don't like feeling like I'm wrestling a squirrel while I swing around Manhattan, but some of you might be into that, right? Resistance triggers are interesting, but I see them as an unnecessary cost to an already overly expensive console. And at the end of the day, they are not reliable. Many people turn them off because they just don't like them. And it's kind of odd fighting a trigger while you're in a multiplayer match of Call of Duty on top of all of the other crap that we have to put up with in games. So again, I don't know if I would be into this. Let me know if you are into this or would like to see these haptic features, or maybe they could put that money into something else. Got any ideas? Or would you just rather save $5 and have them lower the price of the controllers? Let me know down below. Oh, also, we're going to be covering an Xbox update that fixes some Dolby Vision features for early preview members, and we're going to cover a studio right now that Microsoft are working with, Avalanche. A little game called Contraband. Yes, an Avalanche Studios title that was debuted at E3 2021, Microsoft's E3 2021. Essentially, they are telling you why they signed with Microsoft and why Game Pass for a title like this day one is an amazing thing. Avalanche CEO does start by saying that Microsoft and Avalanche have always had a phenomenal relationship, and working with their first-party studios has been intriguing as well. They really liked the insight when it came to what studio support meant to Microsoft, how well they actually funded and resourced their teams. Not only that, but support from Microsoft with getting closer to the hardware. Now, curiously, he does say that they had fantastic partnerships with multiple big publishers like Warner Bros., Square Enix, but none of them have treated them like they have been first-party studios. Remember, there is a very, very strong chance that Microsoft have or will acquire Avalanche very soon, so just keep that in mind. He does also say that it made a ton of sense to work with Xbox due to the grandness of this game's scale. It's not a project they would pitch to just any publisher, meaning Microsoft have something that this game needs. You're looking at something to do with the cloud, something to do with their servers, something to do with, well, I don't know, you tell me. Nah, I'm just kidding. He tells us all he got the cheat sheet right here. He said basically they want to increase their user base. And by this, he probably means the vision for our game design was so different from what we've done before. We need Azure. We need an online network like this. We need users to populate this game, this network, this world. And Game Pass is a massive part of that. So let me know what you think Contraband is. And of course, what you thought of the trailer as we move into the next topic. So, this is the final topic of the video, and for those of you still alive, congratulations, you made it to the next round. So yeah, let's talk about the latest update coming to your Xbox Series console. Not only are you getting fixes for audio, guide, glitches, and much more, but as you know, Dolby Vision for gaming has hit Xbox in the preview program, meaning you probably haven't actually seen it, and there are some big fixes here. There are also general performance improvements for both Xbox Series S and X, and more. Microsoft do say they are working with TV manufacturers to figure out Dolby Vision gaming and basically hammer this thing out, polish it. It's gonna have growing pains, right? That's normal. That's why it's in a preview program. Just know that they are working on it, and it will be here before you know it. And I've got to say this, I've been getting so many concerned messages, people thinking they got to go out and buy a new TV because they don't have 2.1 or they got other issues. People with legitimately good-looking TVs that have real Dolby Vision or HDR, no, you do not have to go out and replace it just because it doesn't have a 2.1 port or just because it's more than a few years old. So if you're freaking out because your TV don't support 4K and 120, well, you're not really going to be playing many games at 4K and 120, especially as the generation drags on. Games get more demanding. Games now don't really run at 4K and 120 at the same time, so imagine later on. Now, there are certain exceptions like Doom Eternal that runs at almost 4K and 120 on Series X, but I think you get what I'm saying here. You should be able to still get that signal at a lower resolution, and, along with those fixes to Dolby Vision for Xbox, you're also getting Dolby Atmos fixes. All kinds of fixes. Too many to name here, so please check out the source linked down in the description as always, and let me know if you've tried Dolby Vision gaming. I hear such great things, but yeah, I've gotten a ton of questions about the Dolby Vision HDR and certain issues. I'm personally having issues with the DVR, the internal recording software for the Xbox Series X. Apparently that's carryover from the One X, and that's why there are so many problems. They need to get that done quick, because I was told 7 months ago that I don't know, maybe that guy fell asleep, I have no idea, but let me know if you fell asleep. Hit the like button if you ended up enjoying this video, and of course subscribe for all of the latest and greatest. You guys rock. Thank you for supporting the channel. Check out the links to the descriptions down below. The links to the sources in the descriptions down below, and also Patreon, all that good stuff. I'm going to be bringing new stuff there soon. So let me know your thoughts. I'm Dealer. I'll see you in the comments.